Absolutely packed agenda today, so I'll keep my words brief. Rick Palea, I lead the customer organization here at SmartSuite. I see so many familiar faces joining us. Excited to share or to have Jon and team share what we've been working on. As it may seem, we've been quiet from a webinar perspective. It certainly doesn't mean we haven't been ultra busy in the back end. Quick housekeeping, please keep the chat going. We will try our best to capture everything that's in here. I've got a couple note takers joining me, so we can collect everything that's coming through and get back to folks either here online or offline. Please do use the Q&A if you have specific questions that you'd like addressed. That's the Q&A down at the bottom for those not familiar with Zoom. Click into that and we will do our best to go through those questions. We have a packed agenda for an hour. And yes, we have some bonus time scheduled at the end in case we go a little bit longer. So stick with us. My last bit, as everybody that's been on a webinar with me knows, I love the reactions in Zoom. I think it's a great way, even if you don't feel chatty at the moment, to share that you're interested and you're enjoying what's going on. So the bottom bar in Zoom, let's get this warmed up. You click that heart icon and react. Let's show some love, some congratulations, some claps. There's going to be a lot of it today. And with that, I'll hand it over to our co-founder and CEO, Jon Darbyshire.
All right, thank you, Rick. I'm going to be joined today by Pete Novosel, who's our VP of Product Innovation, and Artem, who runs our product organization that's here. So let me share my screen. And Rick, can you confirm that you're seeing the new homepage?
Confirmed. Let me see
All
it.
right, so let me get organized here. All right, let's jump in. So I think we have a pretty packed agenda. I'm going to start off with some interface related enhancements, 7 of these that we'll go through pretty quickly. The main focus will be on kind of the new homepage design with the ability to group solutions and a few other interesting things that are there. I know there's been a lot of comments and feedback here recently on adding tabs to the record page. So we want to show that as well. That's there. So let's just jump over to the new homepage that's here. So there's a lot to digest here. This will be going live on Wednesday of next week. We want to take you through this page and show you what's going to happen so you can get prepared for this. There'll also be a video that we'll be providing to all admins in advance that kind of summarizes this, but there's not anything that you need to do. You're just going to see a new display element that begins to come into place. So the first thing that I want to talk about is just you're going to now have the ability to group solutions into what we call groupings that are here. The ability to set up groupings is an admin only feature. So admins can set that up, but once a grouping is set up, any solution manager that has the rights to create solutions can create solutions and then put them into different groupings. So what I'm showing you here is just one of the ways that you can visualize the grouping information that's been displayed. As we were having feedback from different people, there was lots of different comments on how you wanted to visualize. So we're giving you 4 different ways to visualize content. So inside of the grouping. So we have our current implementation that you see here. This is what everything will, on Wednesday of next week, will be the default view that you come into, but we added a few additional views based on feedback. So we also have a card format that's just a little different style that some people really gravitated towards, that if that's your preference, you can move to. My favorite so far is the pill format, and that's just because we have so many workflows in our organization and you're able to group them a little bit easier. You can actually display the descriptions along with the category name. And then we kept the prior admin view that is just for admins and solution managers. They give you a little more information on tables, members, and the last time that that particular solution was accessed. This menu that I'm clicking here has a component at the bottom that is available for admins where you can pick the default style when new users join your workspace. So if you said, I don't like the pill and I want to move to card, when you change this as a new user logs in, they'll see this card format that comes. So it gives you a lot of flexibility that's there. Once you set it, though, each individual user will have the ability to change this as they want. And as they come in and out, we remember the state of that so they can personalize the homepage to be more personalized to them. That's there. Some housekeeping elements that I just want to mention, and then we'll drill into each one of these. You'll notice here at the top of the page now, you have the ability to provide a name for your workspace that's here. This one, Artem created this one, so it's Artimo Central that's here, but I could say Artimo Central Hub that's there. So you just have full control that's here. Um, we we changed the user profile menu on the side based on feedback to just be a little cleaner that's here. So these are more the explore options, but then these options are specific to the user based on their role that they have. So this is, we've always called this the user profile menu. It's the same, it's just been updated a little bit. But what we've added is over here is your workspace menu. So this is where if you're an admin and you come in, you'll have quick access to all the different types of admin features that are here on a single click. If you're a non-admin, it will allow you to switch workspaces and just see some basic information about the workspace itself that's there. This top section here is the homepage banner, and this banner is now controlled by the admin, so it will be the same for all users, but we give you lots of options that I'll go into in just a second on how you can format this element. On the main page, you'll see here is that we've brought together um, your solutions, your favorites, and your recently accessed all together here into one place. So you can just very quickly jump between those, but the default is always all unless you change that. The navigation menu over here on the side, two things. You can have that expanded or collapsed. If you have it collapsed and you hover, it will open and you can very quickly click. And when you click, we'll move directly to that, what am I trying to say? The element that you've selected that's here. And this top portion of the menu is meant to be personal for each user. So this will allow each user to come in and actually personalize the information that they want to see at the top. Right now, we're showing three options, and I could come in and click on the little icon and move them up into the show or hide so I can personalize this. But what's coming is some interesting things in the future. So we'll be adding dashboards to this very soon, where you'll be able to create personal dashboards or share dashboards that when a user logs in, they don't have to go into a solution to see the dashboard that's there. They can just click right here. We'll have an inbox that is an enhanced navigation or notification panel that allow you to connect your calendar, do some really interesting things there. Lots of timesheets. This is where timesheets is going to be displayed for people that want to turn that feature on. So it just gives you a lot of control of how you want to display the menu that's here. The biggest change that you've probably noticed is that when you come in, and I'll go into our existing implementation, is we've taken away all of these resources and upcoming events. And so that all of this information is personal back to the company that's there. Now, we still allow you to get to that through help and resources. We'll provide all that same information if you want, but we also provide at the bottom of the page here, let me move this out of the way. Here we go. A page footer that's here. It has some of that same information. If you're on our enterprise or signature plan, you will have the ability to modify this information to customize the footer exactly how you want for your organization as well. That's there. All right, so let's talk about how to customize some of the options that you see here. So if I click right here under the workspace and I go down to workspace branding, you'll notice a couple of things here. Move this down out of the way just a little bit. Oops, sorry. Didn't mean to click out of that. Go back in. Move this down so you can see the color choices. So we have some new color palettes that are available here on the homepage based on lots of feedback with folks. So I'm just kind of going through the palette so you can see different colors that you can pick from. But note that this color is now set by the admin, and this is set for the workspace when you come in. That's there. So all users will see this particular color that you come in. So let's say I go with this teal. Um, you also have the ability to upload a logo, and you can also determine the color of the avatar that's actually displayed over here. By default, when you come in next Wednesday, it will be white. So if you don't want it to stand out, you can just have it there. But if you want to select one of these colors and maybe match the color that you've selected here, you're able to do that. So that just brings a little pop to your workspace if you want to. The bigger element is how you can control the top that's here. So we have different banner styles. So we have our default banner, which is basically what we have today in SmartSuite with a few additional options where you don't have to do anything. It's just set. We give you a couple of options where I could determine to display this logo here. I can just click and display or not display. We're showing the SmartSuite logo. That's what is there by default. But if you want to change that, you just click over here, click change, put your own logo in, put whatever logo in makes sense for you. That's there. We also allow you to control now the banner size. So we had a number of folks that wanted to have a smaller banner. So we have what we call regular and large. So if you want to just have a smaller version of this at the top for your users, click apply. You can kind of see the update that's here with everything live. Just makes it very easy for you to be able to make that change. If you want to do something more custom, we now give you that capability as well. So you can click on custom. When you click custom, you can now pick an image associated with the background that's there. So if I kind of scroll down, so it's this entire place that's here. So if I want to change that, I can just click right here and it brings up our image library. For those of you that aren't yet familiar with the image library, it's a place for you to be able to come in and load brand images. You can do searches for images. We give you a list of popular images that we're seeing from folks that makes it easy for you to just pick from. So if I was looking at this one and say, hey, I wanted to change this maybe to this teal color, that's just an image. You can also search for images on Unsplash. So, and I could type in, maybe I want to see some buildings that's here, and I want to pick, let's say maybe this building. You can display that image. We also give you the ability now to size, so I could say, or position that information. So I can position that image on exactly how I want to see it that's there. We also provide the ability for you to display an avatar that's right here. And there's different choices for the avatar. If you click on this, so by default, I can include the member profile picture. If they don't have a picture that I'm showing here, it will just show their initials. I could change that and say, hey, I want to show an actual icon that's maybe meaningful to our organization. You can pick the color of that, or you can upload an image. For the image, this could be something like your logo bug that's there. So if we wanted to show the S for SmartSuite to give yourself some more branding. So lots of options when it comes to how you want to display that information. I'll set it back to the member picture that's here. And then we give you full control over what we call this greeting that's here, and then the greeting message. So you can actually build this message dynamically. So I could say welcome, and you can open up the field selector, and we could automatically, in this case, I'm saying pull in the member's first name with a comma two, and then I'm saying pull in the workspace name that we've put up here. So I could personalize that by department, by member role, by type, by company name. So lots of different options for that. And then we give you an optional welcome message as well. So you don't have to display the message. It's there. I'm showing a message here in this particular case. Some people have requested to have a message to tell people how to ask for help, who admins are, those types of things. So it just gives you the ability to have that right on the homepage for every user that's there. You can also have the same option to turn on and off a logo in this area if you've loaded one. And then we give you the same date and time option. So we're playing around and getting some feedback on, right now we have it right here where it just shows the current day and the date for people that have security and compliance reasons for needing to display that. But we're playing with some other options here as well to make it a little more prominent that's there. But setting up your branding for your homepage now is just, you just access it from the workspace menu. There's three simple things to do. When you come in next week, things will be set to default and it will look just like this. You won't need to, excuse me, we'll have the regular or the large banner enabled for you. So it'll look just like you have today. That's there. If you're interested in adding categories that are here, there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. So you can see I already have some categories here. Next week, you will, as things get converted, you'll have one category called general. Everything will be in there, and then you'll have the ability to create categories. In that particular case, you'll just come here, say manage categories, and for you, it will just say general that's there, but you can add as many categories as you want. You can add an optional description for each one. You can pick an icon associated with that, and you can pick which one is the default category, meaning that when you add solutions and you haven't picked a category, which category would they fall fall into. And I'll show you that in just a minute. But you can have as many of these categories as you want. Categories are setting the stage for some interesting things in the future where we'll be able to do um, permissions and inherited permissions at a grouping level. So every time that you move a solution into a group, you could already have permissions set, and then you can override those permissions at the solution level if needed. But it's just going to allow you for people that are adding thousands of members very quickly. It's just going to make things very easy for you to do that. So you can just see how easy it is to add and move things. Once you've set up a category, let's say that I wanted to move this purchase request to a new category. If I'm the solution manager or an admin for this, I could move it, and you just say move to category, shows you a list of categories. I could say I want to move it down into the service request that are there. It's that simple for you just to move things around that's there. Um, I'm sure new solution. So we've got just a new display for people that want to add solutions that are here with starting with a template, building from scratch. And then we've had the create with AI available for quite some time for a select number of folks have been using that. But if you want to create from AI, it allows you to come in, describe your workflow, hit generate, and we will create the tables, the fields, some views, and sample data for you based on what you've described that's there. We'll be sharing more on this on some videos here in the future, and lots of exciting things that are happening here to allow you to more quickly create solutions, and then in the future, the ability to modify solutions by adding fields and automations using natural language as opposed to needing to create all the field values that are there. All right, so I'm seeing some reactions coming in. Hopefully everybody, it's hard when you're providing a demo like this to know if things are resonating or not, but we've talked with hundreds and hundreds of people on the kind of the design of the homepage and all of the options that are here. So I'm hoping that this really makes sense for each of you. All right, so let's drive in next to some additional interface items. So I'm just going to go here to search just to show the concept. I'm going to search for Agile Project Management where I have the demo set up. I'm going to click into this first record. The first thing that you'll notice here is the ability to have record tabs. So this feature will be released on either next Thursday or the following Tuesday. You'll get notification of that when it goes live. It's in testing now. To set up tabs, you go to page settings, you go to tabs, and now you have the ability to add a series of tabs, just like we add things inside of widgets. You can add as many tabs as you would like, and we give you multiple display styles. So basic tabs are just the label with an underline. If you want something that's more progress specific, where you have numbers and we'll auto number these for you. So as you move things around, we will change the order and change the number automatically. As you click on each one, it will highlight where you're actually at in the tab itself in the sequence. Or if you have more of a journey chevron type. So I can show those as chevrons here across the top as well. Um, you'll also be able to use tabs with controlling or using conditional logic. So I could only have the actuals tab be displayed if certain attributes are true that's there. So just like you can control section logic to date, you'll be able to control tab logic as well. And the way the hierarchy works is if you don't display a tab, obviously we can't show any sections that are in there. So it starts at the top with a tab, then goes to a section, and eventually will go to a field that's there as well. Um, when you come into this feature for the first time, it will be disabled just like this. You click enable, you add your tab sets. To add a new tab, it's pretty simple. I can just type in test that's here, and I can say I want to move that to the second position, and I want to change to here. You can see how quickly everything is updated for you. All right, the next item that I'd like to show off is, oh, let's turn back on the tabs. Didn't mean to turn those off. The next item I'd like to show is commenting. So I think everybody knows now you can open up comments and I can go in and I can add a comment and other people can reply back to those comments. So if I just wanted to say at Artem, I can never type in these. please provide a status update. So when I do that, Artem was just notified of that in general to this record. We now have the ability on hover of a field for you to be able to come in, and I could have clicked here to add a comment. I could have done the same thing to Artem, asking for a status update. And when I send it, now you'll notice that in the comments, it actually includes the field name at the top. So I can see the context of what the comment is if I want. I went back here, and the first one you see is just a general comment on the record. The second one is specific to a field. So now Artem and I can have a complete discussion associated with this particular status that's here. It could be any field type that we have. We'll have the ability to hover over and add comments associated with it. That's there. Simple, but very useful one that's there. The next element I want to talk about is our multiple select fields. So this particular field type has been updated to now allow you to limit the number of selections that can be selected for that. So in this case, I could say select up to 3, or I could change that value to 4. Maybe let's go back to 2. And when I change that value, when a user comes in, they can select just that number. You can see I can't select any more that's there. We've also added the ability for both single select and multiple select to enable an other option that's here. When the other option is enabled, when a user makes that selection, it automatically requires them to describe why they've made that selection that's there. So you can use that both with single and multiple select field types that we have. So that's gonna, for people doing assessments and questionnaires, it makes it easier that's there, and know that you still have the ability to turn on where allow users to create new choices. But in a lot of cases, people want to turn that off, just have the other. And now they have to come in. If that's selected, they have to provide the information on the why that's there. All right, charts. Want to show something with some chart values. So we've enabled charting. This is just an example of an Agile project management dashboard. I've just added a simple chart here at the bottom for us to play around with. I'm going to turn on edit mode for dashboards, and I'm going to click on edit this chart. And you'll now see an option is here to include empty values. So in this particular case, I'm doing a chart that's based on statuses, but I want to see, do I have any records that don't have a status selection? So this now allows me to turn this on. By default, this is turned off, but any of the chart types, you can come in and turn that on. I can save those changes. Now my chart will include those. I can click, drill in, and see those 2 particular items. And you see the statuses here are blank. I could change that to in progress. You see it goes away, and it updates the chart in real time that's there. So just one of those usability things that we've added. All right, let's go back home. I want to do a search for another solution. Real estate portfolio. This is a fun one that allows you to include images inside of record selectors and then control the display of the image itself. So in this case, I have a record selector that has a listing of real estate properties. On the right, I have the property details that are here. So you can see as I click in, I can now control the size of these images that are displayed here. To be able to modify that, I'm just going to click edit. I'm going to go into the edit of the property details. I'm going to go into fields, and you see that I'm showing these photos that are here. So I'm going to click edit. And now it lets me determine how I actually display that information. Display them as a field, so I show each one of these individually, or I could actually show them in a carousel, and I could show how many images per row are in the carousel. So if I just want to have a single image and have them go through the carousel there, I can do that. Go back to the updates here. You can also control the size of the image. So if I want to make this really big, really small, it's completely up to you on how you want to display that. You can just say if you want to display the field name. So I could say, no, I took off the photos if that's what you want that's there. And then you could determine if users have permissions to upload or edit photos. So I could say, no, I only want that to be read only. Apply that, save the changes, and here's my carousel. So lots of fun different ways that you can display images inside of record details now. All right, record drill in. So I'm going to flip over to another solution that's here. This is a solution that a lot of banks use to manage regulatory mappings and compliance to those regulatory elements. Here is just a listing of summary cards that's just pulling the totals of all the different regulations associated with each of these. Now, when you click into one of these, you have full control over all of the data elements here with selecting the fields to display, the sorting, the grouping. You can see in this particular case that Spotlight's been turned on, but you also have edit capabilities that are here if you have rights to edit. So it makes it easy now anywhere in SmartSuite where you can drill in to see information, whether that's a chart or a summary card, whatever that might be. So if we have a chart here, I can click in, you get right to the data, and if you have edit rights, you can edit. That's there. That also includes all counts and summaries. See, I don't think maybe I have one down here. Yeah, I don't. See if I'm going to find one that had a count. Here we go. So if I click into the non-compliant that's there, you can see I have the same thing. So you have now complete control over this. And if you're the solution manager to this and you change these settings, it affects everybody. So this is the default way that you want that data to be viewed that's there. All right. Very quickly, I want to move over to dashboards and show just a couple of features that are here. So I'm going to turn back on the edit mode. Notice now if I hover in between items, I have the ability to add elements between items so they don't always go to the bottom and you have to drag them up. You can say, hey, that's exactly where I want to add something that's there. And there's a few new items that are interesting that we want you to be able to see. The first one is a button row. So a button row allows you to add a row of buttons anywhere inside of a dashboard, and each button can perform its own unique action that's there. You can also control the style of the buttons that are there. So I can say auto, where the size is actually based on the text that you enter, or I could say balanced, where it's going to look at the number of columns and it's going to kind of spread them out for you. If I go back to general that's here, I can go into each button. So let's go into the SmartSuite button. I can give it whatever name I want. I could decide if I want to display a tooltip. I could pick the icon style that I want displayed that's there, or none at all. In a simple way, I could just include a link to an external URL, or you can run a script. And this is where things get really interesting, and we may show you some of this at the end. But now I could perform all kinds of fun actions based on this button to go do different things inside or outside of SmartSuite that's there. Um, in the case of URL, you just add a URL and then you let us know, do I want to open that in a new tab or in the same tab that's there? Most of the time it's in a new tab. And then you can ask for confirmation. Confirmation is typically requested, or you want to request it when you're doing something like running a script. So you could then say, I want to add a confirmation. You can actually put a message in here and just said, this is going to perform XYZ action. Are you sure? And then you could have a button that they have to click confirm. We just say yes, continue, but you could change this value to anything that you want. Lots of fun use cases that pop up on dashboards with this capability that's there. We also now support additional chart types that came out here in the first quarter. I won't go into those in a lot of detail, but bubble and scatter charts are now available and starting to be used quite a bit, along with the heat map that's there. There's additional updates coming in about the next 3 weeks on heat map, where we're going to offer a second style of heat map in addition to what we have right now to cover even more use cases for you. And then I showed it prior, but I'll show you again. Anytime that you have any type of a banner or an image capability in SmartSuite, you now go into the image library, and the image library will show you first a listing of, in this case, all the images that have been used in this particular solution. So if you want to use them again, they're already here. You can just select. You don't have to keep uploading that's there. If your administrator or the admin can go in and actually upload brand assets that are here. So it could be your logo bug, maybe 5 or 6 banner types. Every user will have access to those that's there. Obviously, you can search for images. we provide a listing of popular images that we will continue to update that's there. And then we can allow you to use AI to create images as well. So like we're saying here, if you want a cat playing cards while dancing, like AI will create some really fun images and you tell us the quality of the image that you want and the style of that. In this case, I want to create a banner versus just an image or a portrait. So it's really fun to kind of play around with this to really personalize some of the banner options that you have access to. All right. Next, let's talk about some workspace settings that we have. This one rolled out earlier in the year, but just want to make sure everybody's aware of it. So if I'm a solution manager, I can now come in as I'm working and setting up a solution, and I can say, I want to view this information based on the role of another user. So right, it defaults to you up in this corner. I could come in here and say, I want to actually look at this from the perspective of Eric Donnelly that's here. So this is a listing of every user that you've given access permissions to that's in here. Now I'm seeing this live and all of the tables and access and fields is all based on what Eric can see. I could switch that over to Emma. So every time we do a page refresh, it's loading the data in the way that that person actually views it. Once I've completed what I want to do, I can just click on the X. It just removes that and takes you back to your viewing that you have there as well. And then the last item that we'll show, I'll flip back over here. I'll go into the menu that we have here at the top. So we've added workspace usage, which allows you to come in and track the usage for automations and API requests. This will continue to grow where we're going to provide more and more information about what's actually happening in your workspace. So this particular one is specific to an admin. We also have a version that's coming for solution managers at the solution level. So I could say, hey, here's the number of automation actions in the current month. I could say I want to compare that to the prior month that's there. Oh, that's what I used. And for those of you that are approaching limits based on your plan type, you have the ability to auto increment where we'll bill you $15 each time that you hit the limit. But you want to make sure that automations for any reason don't get turned off. So you could just say, yes, let's turn that on. And you will be notified as you're approaching the limit. And then each time that the $15 is billed, you would be notified and you could turn that on and off at will. So this gives you more control if you're approaching limits on your plan type. And then we do the same thing for API calls as well. What's coming next that the team is working on right now is a listing that will display down here below that will show you all of the automations and the number of runs. So you could start to see, do I have one or two automations maybe that is accounting for the majority of the traffic? And on the API request, we're going to do our best to break it down by the source. So you'll understand the sources of those. Maybe you're integrating with another product that's there, or whether it's internal usage that's there. So just note that I don't have a time frame, but we're within a month. Could be a lot shorter, just depends on how the testing goes for this piece. All right, one last item. I will go back into one last item before we get to the really fun stuff is what I meant to say. So forms, I just want to briefly talk about some options for forms that we've kind of quietly rolled out. Just want to make sure that everybody knows about that. So if I go to create a form allows me to take any data inside of a table and actually add that in a form. I can then share this form or I can embed it on my website. And as users fill out the information and click submit, it will take the data and bring it directly into SmartSuite that you have here. A couple of things that we've added. So you have the ability to control your logo. Most companies replace the SmartSuite logo with your own brand, but you can now also add a logo link that's in here, which was a pretty highly requested item. So just type in the URL, pretty simple. We've also added lots of display elements that are here. So if I wanted to just add a heading on the form and for whatever reason, and I wanted to include fields in this section, there I can embed images, videos, I can do call outs, dividers, you could add CAPTCHA anywhere on the form. Typically it's at the bottom where a user actually has to say, hey, I'm a real human before I can click submit. CAPTCHA this has to be there. You can add consents on forms. Consent does something similar in that you can't click submit until you've consented. However, that data might be used. You describe how you want the consent to work. And then we've added PDF viewer for some of you that want to actually include documents inside of a form that somebody needs to read the terms and conditions maybe, and then consent that they've read the terms and conditions. So it will allow you in this particular case to upload a PDF, either a link or an upload that shows in here. Um, and then we also have the ability now to include cover images and linked records. We're trying to, if the forms are going to act just like records is what we're trying to make available. All right. Now let's move to the fun part. So we're going to talk a little bit about automations. And we've done a lot of work on automations that's here, and we're going to spend the next 20 minutes kind of discussing and showing some AI components to that. But I just want to very quickly highlight what these are so that you kind of understand the core concepts, and then Pete and Artem will drill in and really help show the concept. So I'm going to go back into this to this Agile project management. I'm going to go to projects. I'm going to click on automations. And if you're not familiar with automations in SmartSuite, automations allow you to set a trigger. And when that trigger is true, then you can perform an action or a series of actions. A trigger could be when a record is created, is updated. You could add conditions to a record that when these conditions are met, the status is X and it's assigned to John. Then I want you to take action. It could be at a scheduled time. We've added in the first quarter of this year the ability to, when a webhook is received from another product. So if another product needs to send information to us, we can just be watching. When we get the webhook, then it could trigger a workflow. And then we also have when a button is clicked. When a button is clicked allows you to add a button inside of any of your records. And when that button is clicked, you can then perform an action or a series of actions that are there. And Artem and Pete are going to show this live with some examples here in just a minute, but this is being used like crazy already. They have some fun examples to show you how that actually works. One of the other features that we released here a few months ago is the ability to have looping inside of an action, which basically means I can perform a set of actions and across a series of records. And Artem's going to show that in one of his examples that has here. And then we also have added AI. And I just want to talk about our AI strategy for a second. So we have an AI assist prompt that allows you to use natural language to describe what you want the AI model to do. And then that is just one of many actions that can happen inside of um, uh, inside of an automation, excuse me. And the approach that we've taken is maybe a little different than some other products in that we allow you to select your LLM of choice. And then once you select the platform, like AI, we will provide by to one. So you could pick the model that makes the most sense for you. So we support, the Google model with Gemini, Anthropic Cloud, Bedrock from Amazon, Azure from Microsoft, Perplexity, Nscale, IBM Watson, XAI, Gronk, Meta, and each of these have their own models that are supported. Currently, we don't charge for this. We're releasing this live to everybody. And you connect and use your own authentication back to each of these models that are here. So without further ado, I'd like to turn this over to Peter first. Peter's going to show two simpler use cases on the use of AI inside of SmartSuite, but they're really interesting. And then Artem's going to step it up a little bit and show you something a little more complex that's available. So Pete, you want to jump in?
Yep. Let me share my screen. All right, let me know if you're seeing my screen now.
We are. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So first off, to build on what Jon was just saying about AI, AI is a major portion of our product strategy going forward, and you can actually see AI in the product currently. If you weren't aware of this, when you're in SmartDoc, you can type a / or just hit the space bar when you start typing, and you can go to Ask AI and it will generate a response and put it in your SmartDoc. But what we found is that people wanted something a little bit more automated. So we've taken this whole capability, wrapped it up in an automation action. And I'm going to show you kind of the structure for a couple of scenarios here. One very common request is just to do some content processing. So it's generative, but you need some inputs for it. And we're going to accommodate that here, where we're going to take some of our changelog content and turn it into a format that's appropriate for LinkedIn and Facebook. I'll show you how that's configured here in just a second. Our second scenario is one for our friends in the risk and compliance community, where we're showing here some information about regulatory change notifications, where the government or some agency comes and publishes information about what is going to be changing. In this case, we've got some information from the SEC. This is an actual SEC filing, and we've got a whole bunch of information that we can make available to the AI. What we're going to do here is have the AI actually make selections. So we're going to get values back that we can use in our drop-down lists here, as well as some text that it's going to generate. Let's step into the configuration. So within automations, we'll take a look at the content formatter first. And Jon was showing you here in the AI action configuration itself. We first have the ability to pick the model, or the platform rather, and I've got a couple of tests configured, but when you open this up, you've got all of those platforms that we were just talking about. And then when you select one, it requests the information that's required for that particular AI provider. Once that's done, you get a list of all the models that are supported from it. So you can pick the one that's most appropriate for the use case that you have, one that's a little faster or can support images. And we indicate that here with a little icon that has a tooltip. When you hover over it, you can see, oh, this model supports PDF files and it can scan images. So you get a sense for what those support, as well as kind of the relative cost, just indicated by the dollar signs here. You can see, the minis are less expensive, and the more advanced models may have a few more dollar signs. We do that just to give you a sense for what you're getting yourself into. Here, you continue on by specifying the prompt, and the prompt, just like you were typing in ChatGPT or any of these models online, you can specify the text. Here I'm asking it to respond as a marketing professional. I want to convert this changelog content, and then I'm actually providing a link to the content that's coming in from the triggering record. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. You have the option to just say, I want a simple output. It's just going to give me the text response from the prompt, just like it would if you typed it in manually in one of their sites. But here's the powerful part. You can tell the AI that you want particular responses in particular formats. In this case, I want 2 bits of text. And if I open this up, I can say this LinkedIn property that I wanted to create, I want that to contain the content for LinkedIn that I was talking about up in the prompt. Same thing for Facebook. And you have a wide range of options. And Artem, in just a minute here, is going to show you some more advanced uses of this, where you can tell the AI to give you a list of objects, an array that have different properties, and then you can go use those in future actions. Once I've got all of that, you can map it in just like any other automation action. You can add fields, and then here in the chooser, you'll see use data from custom prompt. And I've got those bits of text output along with the prompt itself and how many tokens were used if you want to track that or store it somewhere. You just map it in like that. That's all there is to that one. And you can have all of the same triggers. You know, in this case, I'm just going to say generate and it'll kick it off. Also, when just like any other automation, you have history available, so you can come in here and see all of the details and what was actually done and the updates made. Take a very brief look at my other scenario. This regulatory change is just a little bit more sophisticated in the way that it's doing things because it's capturing certain information from the base record, the regulation name, the regulatory body, the summary. And then I'm also including an attachment that includes the full text of that regulatory change. Here, I've just got some very basic information about my organization. You could pull information that you're storing in SmartSuite about the business and include that in a more comprehensive prompt. And then what I'm telling it to do is go generate an impact and risk rating. And I'm telling it that should be low, medium, high, or very high, as well as a summary. And here, the neat thing is I can tell AI to explain itself. I want it to summarize the reasoning for selecting those values for this particular regulatory change. And then, of course, mapping these back in to the record. And what you end up with is something that looks about like this, where you've got your regulatory change, you've got its potential impact and potential risk, and then the AI analysis explaining why it made those choices. So it's a great way to kind of jumpstart things that take a lot of manual time to read through, categorize, and maybe prioritize some things. But unless we have any questions that we want to jump into right now, Jon, I'll hand it over to Artem to show the really cool stuff.
All right, yeah, let's hand it over. We'll have questions here at the end, Pete.
Sounds good.
Yeah, you have raised the bar.
Artem, always.
Okay, are you seeing it?
We are, yes.
Okay, yeah, so I have two use cases in mind that I want to show you, if we have enough time, of course. The first one is about the delivery company. Say it's a FedEx or UPS, whatever. And they are tracking the incidents that happened during those deliveries. Here they are. We have a table that has a title of an incident, a description of what happened, then the root cause, when it happened, and severity of it, right? And my goal is to analyze those and get a summary on per quarter basis to understand what was happening. Yeah, and I would also like to, instead of reading all those incidents, I get a summary of like what were the most frequent root causes or whatnot. But also, I would ask it to generate a number of preventive actions to help me avoid those accidents or incidents in the future. And then as a second step, we will also create an actionable plan, an actionable list of things that need to be done just to avoid them. And they can be assigned to somebody and so on, right? So in this example, we'll use, when a button is clicked, trigger, we'll use AI and we'll use looping. So all those three things will come together and you will see how we can combine them all. So you can see I have this button that would kind of, that's where the workflow starts. So click a button and the first automation will start. I actually have it here. So when the button is clicked, we have nothing here. It's very simple. And then as a first step, I'll do a find action and I will go and search for all these incidents that are in the table. Yeah, I have hundreds of them right now. And then I will feed this list, like the results of this find action. I will take it and I will feed it to the AI action. And I'm doing it by explicitly listing the fields. You can see I'm pulling them from find records. It's the title, the description, the incident date. So I'm just listing all those fields that I found and telling it like, okay, that's the list that you have. Now, here's what you need to do with it. You need to generate a summary You need to generate a list of preventive actions. You also need to group those because you have a date here. Yeah, you need to analyze it and think of which quarter this date belongs to. And I want this to be returned this quarter in this format. Okay. And again, what as Peter mentioned, the coolest thing is that you can control the output. So instead of just getting a pile of text or whatever, I need it to be defined very precisely so that I could use it in the looping as a subsequent action. And here's a little bit more advanced structure. So actually I'm saying that I need to get a list, an array of objects or a list of objects. And then each object will actually be a quarter so that it will have a name of the quarter. Then I will ask it to count those incidents that happened in that quarter and then generate the analysis, the preventive actions, and oh, and there's another one that I will ask it to compare what was happening in this quarter against what was happening in the previous quarter. So if I want to track the dynamics, like am I getting better or worse? So yeah, we have this output. And then we have the looping action, which is using this array of objects as its source. You can see it here, saying selected list. It gets it from AI. And then it will just create a record for every quarter that it found. That in my case, it will be just 2 quarters. And I'm filling the values saying, okay, you can see the current item in this scenario will actually be that that element response that AI generated, and I can pull data from that list of objects. Yeah, so we're just filling in everything, and when it's done, we're actually be seeing things that I just showed you, so it will look like this. Provide some meaningful insights, but for preventive actions, this thing is not really actionable, right? It's just a text that it generated. What would I do with that? That's when I have a second automation on top of it, where I would generate corrective actions. I will take that smart doc that it just generated, and I will again pass it over to AI, and I will say, this is the list of preventive actions. Please analyze it and break it down into a JSON so that I could use that JSON in subsequent action. And that's what it's doing. So it just parses the here it should be an added corrective actions. Yeah, like this. So I'm feeding the SmartDoc. Yeah, it will read it, and again it will parse it into the predictable structure. So quarter action, it will generate an item or an object for every action, and then I will run another loop that will create a list of actions, and it will link them to a respective quarter. So that's the use case number 1. If you have any questions, we can discuss them, but let me jump over to the second one.
Yeah, Artem, we're down to the last 4 to 5 minutes, so we'll go through this next one pretty quick, and then if anybody needs to jump off, we can stay and answer any detailed questions on these.
Okay, yeah. So I will be very brief. The whole point of it is that by a click of a button, I will create a set of tasks for a project of a certain type based on the task templates that I have in my test templates table. And where AI is very helpful is when it receives, again, I will do the find in the templates table. So I will search for a set of tasks as templates, and then AI will just do some magic, and it will take the start date of the project, and it will go through the list of tasks, and it will calculate the start date and the end date of each task based on the start date of the project and the duration of the task, so that it will build me a nice sequence. Then I will then use, again, in the looping, and I will just create a list of tasks, and I will link them with dependencies. So at the end, with a single click, you will get a project that is completely set up with all the stuff ready to go. It's linked to a project. They are in the right order. All dependencies are in. All due dates are in. Very, very easy. Okay, yeah, so that was the use case number 2.
All right, thank you, Artem. I think that we're going to actually have a separate session, and I meant to mention this at the beginning, here in about 2 weeks, where we're going to spend an hour just on AI, and we're going to educate you on all the different ways and different features that are available for you to use. And then we're going to come back with 6 or 7 use cases to help you solve from simple to complex things, just to get everybody up to speed as quickly as possible on that. And there's one thing that I failed to show before that I'll show in relation to AI that I just want to show here. This is an example of something that Pete pulled together using our scripting capability inside of dashboards, widgets where you can actually create your own chatbots. And in this particular case, it is looking at the CRI profile, which is a listing of regulatory content that's there, and people can come in and ask specific questions. And in my case, I've just asked, what is the CRI? And it will allow you to interact with the data that's there. Note that what is coming in SmartSuite in the future is the ability for you will not have to set this up using the script that we have here, which we'll show here in a couple of weeks when we talk about AI. But you'll have chatbots that can be associated with the data elements that you have, and all this will be out of the box. So just know we're working on that right now, but we're not in a place to, we've got some, you can see down here at the bottom, this little icon where I can actually click and have an AI assistant. So we're playing with this in alpha right now, but it's not ready to release, but we'll be getting back to everybody very soon on that. I apologize. We're right at the hour mark. There was a lot of content to cover here today. Hopefully it's pretty useful. I see we still have close to 300 people on the line, and Rick, happy for us to stay and answer any questions if needed as well.
Brilliant. I've been busy leveraging AI to summarize these into buckets so that we're not so scattered. Thank you, everyone, for joining for the full time here. We're up in a minute. I presume many will stay with us to get some questions answered. We'll move as quickly as we can through these. Just be mindful I've collected somewhere around the realm of 70 questions. So shall we dig in?
Yeah, let's jump in, Rick. I think we'll probably need to do like maybe 20 questions, and we'll have to get back to everybody else personally, just for the sake of time. Yeah.
Some of these should be quick answers. So feel free. Let's start with the homepage. There were a few folks, Landon and some others, that asked about the ability to choose a custom palette, like a hex code. We saw a lot of +1s for that. Is that something that could be in our future?
It is. So the custom capability basically allows you to create any image that you want to put in there, what allows you to create that image. And you can use AI to create it if you want to. We're also evaluating on the default side for you to put in hex codes, but it's a little more complex than that, because when you pick a primary code, we pick a secondary code, and then we link things. We have buttons that are tied to that, so it goes down the tree. If you pick something that doesn't look good, it could affect all the way down. So we're trying to give you the best of both with the ability to select from the image, create your own image based on the color that you want.
Nice. Will we have information about custom banner sizes in there? Lowena had asked for creating banners on the homepage.
Yes, it is in there. Correct. Yeah, it's in the help article, and it's right on the page when you create the banner.
Excellent. And a mini feature request in there, a chance to create their own small icons for the solution things. That could be a fun one in the future. If someone has no access to solutions in a certain category, Manuel's asking, would that be a category that's hidden for them?
That is true. I should, yeah. So if there's two things, if a user doesn't have access to a solution in a category, that category is not shown for them. And if a category is empty, there's no solutions in it, it's only seen by the admin until something is moved into that category.
Got it. And Kelly wants to confirm, I think you did touch on this, are categories at a user level or admin dictated? The users don't have any ability to denote where those solutions would be grouped?
No, it's an admin feature to set the categories up, and then a solution manager can move solutions they create into one of the predefined categories, what we call groupings. Yeah.
Okay. And can a solution be in more than one category? Like currently,
it cannot. No. It's in a single category. Yeah.
Let's see. What if any of the homepage changes will be reflected on mobile? Hale and a few others asked about this.
Yeah. So there's everything that I showed you now won't affect mobile other than the color. That's there. So mobile is very, very different. You won't have banners and things like that show up.
Okay. But the ability to have groupings, will that be on mobile?
It is coming. It's not available next Wednesday.
Okay, good to know. And then Martin's asking, will these updates also be released in the EU data center at the same time?
Correct. Yes.
Awesome. All right, let's move over to tabs. Some questions here. Any news on controlling visibility of section tabs by groups or permission levels? So tab permissions, essentially.
The first piece is the conditional, where you use a rule set to put in there. The second piece is being able to use a role in the condition that's there. I think that's what they're asking. Yeah.
Yeah. And will mobile also have tabs?
It will. Yes.
Okay. Can you auto turn sections into tabs, or is that something we're considering? Sarah's asking.
Yeah, that's the first I've heard of that. Haven't had that request. Yeah.
I get why. I get why, Sarah.
You'll be able to move sections into tabs, but not create tabs from that. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a good question.
Yeah. Just a couple questions around the other option. There's a lot of interest here. Caitlin, Jamie, Richard, Alex, Vincent, several others. Will the other option in single and multi-select be available in forms?
It will. I need to check if that is included for next week or if it still needs to be added, but yes, it will.
Okay. And then Laura's asking, what about in dashboard widgets? Will that capability carry over the other option into dashboard widgets?
I'm assuming you're talking about the record detail. The answer is yes.
Nice. Let's get into AI, which is a big portion of what's left. We've AI and then a couple things on integrations and dashboards, but AI related, obviously the main question for several, when will we potentially have access to this? When's ETA on this?
Yep. So it's been in alpha here for about a month. We'll be releasing parts of it late next week to a select group. If you typically things like this get released to our partners and some power users first. It says if you would like to be considered for including in the beta of that, please let us know. You can just reach out to our support team and we'll include you on a list.
Nice.
But there'll be a couple of weeks of testing across the beta, and then everybody will have access to it. So we're really close to just rolling this out for everyone.
Awesome. John, CPAT, Joe, a few others are asking about, will the AI models be contained within the organization itself so the data isn't used to train any models? And where is it stored?
Yeah, so you have complete control over that based on the model that you pick. So each one is a little different. That's why we give you access to the model. And in that particular case, you've made that choice based on the model that you've selected that's there. What's coming in the future is our ability for larger enterprises to create their own models. And we now have an architecture to be able to do some things to support that inside of SmartSuite.
Mathis asked, and I know the answer to this, how can we disable the use of AI within my company's workspace? So for now, it's a request to us through Intercom, and in the future, we may enable that at the workspace level to be toggled on and off.
It is. It will be in workspace settings, and you'll have a number of AI options that are there. The first is you can disable it, but the second one is you'll be able to select the specific platforms that you want to be used. So basically, you can turn a bunch of them off and just provide what you want.
Excellent. Let's jump over to, well, the last bit on that, I suppose. Jonathan's asking about getting native MCP support. I know he's a big advocate for this, and I understand why.
Something that we're looking at for sure.
Jonathan, that would be a good one. I think we'd love to hear your take on that. I see a lot of your LinkedIn posts about it. I know you're pushing the bounds, so I think we would benefit from having a direct chat if you want to reach out to us. Okay, a couple for dashboards. When will we release map view in dashboards?
I need to check the date. So can we track who asked that question, and we'll get back to you on that.
Yep. Have Brian on that. Okay. And actually, we'll jump over for Doc Designer. So Mithun is asking, do we have table rows and borders yet in Doc Designer?
I don't think so, Pete. Is that correct?
Not yet. It's still in the backlog, but it is on the roadmap.
Okay.
And Kenneth, Laura, Caitlin, several others are asking just the form improvements. Can they be extended to Doc Designer and the image functionality, the image library? Can that be extended to Doc Designer?
It will.
Yeah, we've got a whole list of enhancements that are kind of in queue for Doc Designer. It's just a matter of resources with some of these other things that we've been working on.
Yeah. All right, let's jump over to forms. There's a lot of interest around what we're doing there. Gotti's asking, if I use IP restrictions, can I share forms with people outside the IP restriction?
So that's a request that's came in here recently that we're going to allow. So right now, when you have an IP restriction, we ensure that nothing goes outside of that restriction that you set. We're going to have a second option that's going to allow you to have some exceptions to that, and forms will be one of those.
This one area where we've got a whole list of things that we're ultimately going to do to give you more granular control over what you can share with who and all kinds of admin configuration options for that type of thing.
A few feature requests there with forms. Can a form cover multiple tables? And currently it cannot.
What you can select from other tables. We have a concept that's coming of being able to have multiple forms, basically have subforms, so that a form can be completed in sections that come from different tables. I think that's what's being asked. That's there. That's on the short-term roadmap. There's someone working across quite a number of these form enhancements right now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, subforms. There's a lot of buzz there about that's
Yeah.
much desired. Can we add signatures? So John Brewer's asking, can we add signatures for reading consent forms into the form? Also, what about test questions in forms?
We already support signatures in forms that's there, and you can make the signature required. So along with the consent, they have to have the signature. So that's already there. And what was the second piece, Rick?
Second piece is about, what about test questions in forms?
Test questions.
I'm not sure what that means.
John, feel free to hit us with that one directly if you're still on. Yep. Okay. Let's get into API and automations. We're moving through actually the majority of these because there's a lot of sort of duplicates I've grouped. David is asking, automation duplication when duplicating a solution. When is this coming?
Yeah, that's on the short-term roadmap being worked on right now. So yeah, there's two pieces to that that's happening. There's solution packaging, and then there's just the including automations when you duplicate a solution that's in there. Packaging will allow you to not just package a solution, but you could package include other solutions in the package that are linked to each other. They can be linked or not linked, and then it would bring all of the content there. And then the second phase of solution packaging allows you to install a package and then do an update to a package. We would do a compare and we'll tell you the differences, and you'll be able to select the items to add back that's there. So if you're moving between environments or you're keeping a series of customers updated with the same base solution, you'll have that capability. And that is underway right now as well, the phase one of that.
Manuel's asking, when will we get formatted text via automations and API into Smart Docs? So like Markdown or HTML format?
Artem, do we have anything on the short-term roadmap that has that piece?
Well, nothing specific. Like this topic has been brought up several times. But yeah, we'll have to think through.
Okay.
We've had discussion about adding Markdown support, so that's something that we should revisit internally.
I want to circle back to John's question. I think it's a good clarification. John Brewer is saying for that form question, let's say, for example, we have a person filling out a form and they have 10 questions that would test if they understand the content within the consent form. They would need to complete those before being allowed to sign.
You have the ability to have required fields. I guess, are they saying they want them completed correctly? Probably is what he's saying.
You
They have
could
that.
probably do it with conditional logic in the form.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Let's riff on that one.
yeah, we'll play around with that and just see that's there, but I understand the concept now.
Turning on the auto incremental for the automations and API calls, Luena's asking, will you get charged for automation runs which don't complete due to issues outside of our control? So failed runs or failed automations?
No.
Okay. All right, let's jump to last section here, which is I'm just calling it other and some suggestions. So other features, Eric's asking several times, and I get why is the web clipper coming back? I used to use it a lot. Would really like to have that back. The SmartSuite web clipper, the Chrome extension.
Not sure. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Pete, the two of us will have to have a quick conversation.
Yeah, let's chat about that one.
Okay. David's asking about development regarding timesheets.
Yeah, timesheets is on the roadmap. It's not being worked on currently, but all of the things that we needed to do to enable the display and use of timesheets has been completed now. So now it's just the actual collection of the time. Now we do support, we have the time tracking log field type, and people use us for timesheets. Thousands of companies have implementations of this. This concept I'm talking about will be a generic timesheet capability that you can just turn on, and then it will include the ability to go back and review prior time just in a more formalized way where you don't have to build it inside of a solution.
Yeah. There's a few extensions on that around managing work capacities and resource management. Anything we want to speak to there?
All of that ties together with that. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, just know that that is a work in progress. Dave is asking about Dave, Sarah, and a few others are asking about client portals and the ability to have portal level licenses, a different cost model for that. Anything you want to speak to in regards to portals and pricing?
Yeah, so we're really close to actually turning that on. So a portal is not any different than what we have as a dashboard right now, but it will be a separate concept that when you create a portal, it will have its own unique link that you can share that link for just that item back out to someone, and then we'll have a pricing model associated with portals. They're very similar to what other people in the space have as well.
Okay. Let's see, sub-item updates. Lowen is asking about.
Yep, sub items is done. It's in migration, so we'll start migrating. I'm not sure if it's happened yet, but if it hasn't, it will start happening here in the next week. We will start migrating people to the new sub items capability, which will include use in automations and in all of our calculations are supported. So all field types, all automations, all calculations now supported in new sub items.
Mm-hmm. Patrick's asking is the niche one, but I get why. Is there any way to control permissions on who can be mentioned in a solution? A use case, I have many clients in one solution. They all have a signee or a signee plus permissions. It'd be ideal for the clients not to be able to see a list of all the people in that solution.
Well, for right now, you can mention people that have access to the record where you're doing the mention. So that's the limitation. So if all of these folks can access that record, you can mention them.
Okay. Yeah, Patrick, that might be one to dig in too deeper with you there.
Yeah.
Well, we've covered about 90%. I see there's some more coming through, so we won't get to all these. We will make a note of any that we didn't specifically answer, and we'll be reaching out to folks. Yeah, they just keep coming in. So instead of us trying to run through all these, I do want to wrap with actually Tara has called one out here that's come up a couple times. Yeah. How can I extract the date or another piece of content from a PDF using AI and then update records with that information? This is a use case we keep on getting asked about.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's completely available in the class that we're going to announce. We'll probably announce it tomorrow and send out the notification. That will be one of the base things that Pete and Artem will cover. We're using that quite often internally right now with playing around with AI.
Yeah. In fact, in another version of one of the scenarios that Artem showed, we actually use a PDF of all of that task information, read out of there and perform exactly the same action. So yeah, extracting data is definitely possible.
Huge. A couple questions I actually see that had grouped around creating solutions using AI. And we've had that capability for some time. We've sort of pulled it back and we've fine-tuned it. Jon, do you want to speak to anything additional there?
I guess we're making that generally available to everyone that's there. We do have a list of enhancements that we're working on or working towards there as well that will allow you to will better communicate what is happening in the background as AI is working to create and understand tables and fields and demo data, setting up views so we can kind of keep you informed that's there. But the second piece of that is we won't create it. Um, we'll give you the chance to have a preview, and then you can continue to work with AI. If you see that, hey, something's not right, you can say, hey, add XYZ, add this table, add these fields, and then you'll have the ability to say continue. And at that point, we'll actually create in the background that solution for you. So it's going to be more interactive is where we're heading with that. And then we're also pulling in all the knowledge that we have of all the SmartSuite templates and tables and fields and linked records and things to have them in context so that if you're creating a project to do XYZ, we can give you a list of, hey, would you like to include these 3 or 4 tables by default, and just give you more control. So it'd be more of a code builder as compared to what we have right now, which is just AI to create the solution. And that's on the immediate roadmap for us. So you're going to see a lot of new capabilities on creating solutions and modifying solutions using natural language.
And just one quick note, Rick, I saw a couple of mentions in the chat about people who have had beta access to the AI generator. And a number of people were running into a situation where it always returned an error. And that, of course, is being fixed in this release as well.
One integration request, I've seen this a couple times. I know that Rawson and a few others are passionate about this, but NA10 or Nathan direct integration or more connectedness like we have with Make and Zapier. And
if we have enough support, I think we'll look at that. Right now, we support Make, Zapier, and Relay that's there, but we're happy to continue to add to that list if needed.
I think that it seems like there's a lot of support. So let's continue on with that. Last one. I heard about, this is anonymous. So thank you, anonymous. I heard about SmartSuite conference at the beginning of this webinar. I'm very excited about this. When and where is it going to be? So there is no set. Jon can probably speak to, us to have a desire to do this at some point and bring our users, customers, and partners together. Anything you want to share on that, Jon?
Yeah, we've been doing some kind of mini events, mainly in New York recently, but we are in discussions of more of a more formal annual user group where that would be. There are some more events that will be taking place in New York that anyone can travel to that will give some dates associated with that. But yeah, that's definitely on the radar.
Amazing. We're still well over 100 folks here. I want to thank everybody for the bonus time, all the time that you've shared with us this morning. Hopefully you see we've been hard at work, the team here, just getting started. This is really the next wave. In the second half of the year, we're committing to you that we're going to bring back a more dedicated webinar strategy. So more consistent webinars, more consistent updates. I know a few people asked about, there's so many changes here happening, so many interesting enhancements. I do want to call out the change log, and there's several other places within SmartSuite that you'll have the ability to see each one of these features, information about them, videos. We don't take this lightly. Yeah, here you go. Jon, if you want to.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we do communicate through the change log. The what's new, you can get to it through the product that's there, but this list, this lists every new feature with all the details. Most features include videos and then links to help articles that's there. So if you're not subscribed to this, please do. And this is updated weekly with anything new. So a lot of the stuff that we've talked about is included here with video content as well.
Excellent. We'll stay across it. Hopefully this is a nice, pleasant spot to your Wednesdays here. Thanks again for everyone joining, and we're excited to see what you do with these new enhancements to SmartSuite.
All right. Have a great day. Thanks, everyone.
Here's all. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.